first and second quarter of the coming school year. And then we've had really good luck when schools have collaborated. So again, maybe because of a construction project or something that doesn't allow one school to have a program, a couple of schools might go together. It's still not a geographic hardship for students and families, but those programs have worked out really well. So we're going to find ways to encourage that kind of collaboration between schools as well. Questions?
I got Kathy and then Barb.
Did you follow up with families when the students didn't come back to find out why they didn't come back? Was there an overwhelming reason? Were they as different as the day is long?
It really did vary quite a bit. And a lot of it was the students didn't necessarily feel, they didn't know that anyone necessarily at the school that they were going to because it wasn't their school. They maybe didn't feel like they knew other kids that were going. And so that disconnect on the student side was communicated to us by parents. There were travel concerns for parents who, if a student got sick, they didn't know how to go get that student or where to go get that student. And so there was that disconnect for families as well. So when we've gone to homeschool kinds of programs, a lot of that has really gone by the wayside. So that was a kind of a deciding factor for us, that we needed to look at ways to have the programs in the neighborhood schools instead of somewhere across town that might feel very unfamiliar, both for students and their parents.
And were the programs that were offered in literacy, math, or both, were they just enrichment, or did they go back to curriculum that we had during the previous year, or curriculum to prepare them for the next year?
It's remediation. And so again, it's based on that whole idea of at-risk students. So they might be at grade level at the end of the school year, but we're concerned about summer learning loss and the potential that they'd come back to school in the fall below grade level. So the district program had been designed to kind of shore up some things as well as offer some remediation opportunities. And that's what most schools are doing as well. Most of our schools use the curriculum that we use during the school year as a way to just kind of reinforce some of those skills and concepts throughout the summer. But they do have that opportunity for some reteaching if there's some concepts that kids really struggled with during the school year.
And lastly, I know it's on your last page that you kind of want to do a follow-up, but I'd really like to know somewhere down, so I don't want you to just think about doing a follow-up. I'd really like to see how this impacts the students' learning as they move forward. How many years have we been doing a elementary program? Just the last 3, or did we?
Oh, no, I would say it's at least 10 years that we've been doing some kind of elementary. The tracking of student data has always been a little bit tricky. And so because of the way that we're kind of collecting that data, we're in a better position to do that than we have been in the past. In the early years, when I was a principal, a lot of that data wasn't available electronically. So we literally would have had to gone out to schools and try to collect some of that information. Now it's a whole lot easier to get. So that's something I think that will facilitate that process a whole lot more now than it did 10 years ago.
Thank you.
Barb?
I was wondering, what is the actual length of the program?
It really varies, and it varies by school because of the allocations that they have. Typically, we see anywhere from about 2 to 4 hours per day. And again, sometimes when Linda's going to talk here shortly about some federal funds, and what we notice a lot of our schools doing is they're kind of braiding those funding streams together. And so the flex funding may serve some programs that are in the morning, and title funds may serve some things, students' opportunities in the afternoon. They may use that to extend the number of days that they offer programs. So again, it just kind of varies a little bit. But typically, what I would see, typically we see a morning program with flex funding, so it's anywhere from 2 to about 4 hours.
And how many days a week, how many weeks?
It varies, again, by how much money they have. So the number of students they can serve, the number of days that they can have a program varies a little bit. The average was 9 days over the course of the summer, but we had, again, some of those programs that had more money were serving 18, 20, 24 days in the summer. So the students were able to have a pretty lengthy program.
Okay. I was wondering, have you ever partnered with the Health Department's summer feeding program?
We do.
Good.
Yep, we do. And that's been a long-standing
Good.
partnership that's been there for, in almost all of our schools. So that's another reason why if we have a morning program, then we typically would have the lunch opportunity for students as well.
Excellent.
We also partner with Mary Ryman and the libraries to kind of create those summer library program opportunities and connect that with the summer school programs as well.
And the Parks Department has a summer food program and kind of physical activity program too. I don't know if you partner with them.
I know some schools do.
They do, okay. Then my last thing, I have a feeling is a good segue for Linda, and that is can we talk about resource development? Because from my perspective, I think that when we have at-risk kids and we know that they need these services, in ideal world, we might go and have maybe a solid 4 weeks out of every 10 or so weeks of summer have that kind of programming.
Yes.
Okay,
That is a perfect segue for Linda.
Well, one thing I would just also remind the board about is our work with our DMC report and talking about all kinds of different ways that we support those struggling learners. Summer school and summer programs are definitely part of that conversation that I think will be another good way to bring that into the picture in terms of how we serve any struggling students.
Okay.
Were there any other questions on elementary? All right, Linda?
Good evening. So in addition to the programs that JD just discussed that are available to all schools, I want to share some opportunities for our students who are in Title I schools that were new this past summer. And we began with English language learning programs for the students that are levels 1 and 2. So our students that are newest to learning English in our Title elementary schools, we offered 3-week sessions, half-day sessions for 3 weeks at their home schools. We did provide transportation. Several principals have tried programs like this in the past and found difficulties with attendance. Adding transportation is what the principal said really made the difference. And we had good attendance. All students in these schools who were level 1 and 2 were invited to attend, and a large number did. We had 247 elementary students. This same program was offered in our Title I middle schools, and 105 middle school students attended. So this was an experience for them to continue speaking English during a time period in the summer. When I get to my goal slide, we hope to have it even more than 3 weeks next year, but this was our start for this year. We, of course, as we're working on language acquisition, work on reading, writing, speaking, and listening, but the content that we focused on to do so for our elementary schools was science. Many of our ELL students don't have as much time in science during the regular school year. So as I went around and visited classes, I would see little sprouts by the window in every school, and I could tell that they were working on plants. So it was a great program to see in place. And then for our high school ELL students, as Pam mentioned, ELL classes have long been included in the North Star Summer Program. And for our our level 3 and 4 students who know more English, there are classes for them. There are also classes for, again, our beginning English learners in high school. And they've always been open to students at Lincoln High, but we didn't see as high a participation rate getting from Lincoln High to North Star for those beginners. And so we added ELL classes at Lincoln High this summer, the same time period, the 6 weeks, same amount of credit as was offered at North Star. And we about doubled our number of classes. So we had about 50 students. These are just our level 1 and 2 students get summer credit, elective credit, at each school, so a total of 100. So we're very happy to see that happen and want to continue that at both schools in the future. Then another program that we offered, we've had a couple of our middle schools and high schools collaborate to do this in the past, but we had 4 of our 5 Title I middle schools. The 5th wants to participate next year. Again, they were, Leffler had some construction going on where it didn't work as well. But this was a program to have 8th graders, exiting 8th graders, students going into 9th grade, get a class for high school credit completed during the summer. We had our principals and our counselors recommend students who would most benefit this. So it wasn't offered to all students, but students who would really benefit with that transition. It was done differently in some of the schools. Most of them did like 3 weeks in the middle school and then 3 weeks in the high school. The same teacher taught the whole time, and it was a high school teacher. But that gave those students that transition time to be in the high school halls. They knew at least one high school teacher when they started and could find that person, and they had some credit already on their transcript. And so we had 84 students that participated in that after just a handful of students in past years. So our goals for this coming summer, we definitely want to increase the number of weeks for elementary and middle school ELL programs. We know our teachers are busy, and so we may have to double up and have, one teacher take 3 weeks and another teacher take a couple weeks. We're going to offer 4 or 6 week programs this summer to schools and see what works best for each site. We also want to add programs for elementary and middle school general education students, so not just ELL, but others who might be selected by principals and counselors that would benefit from some extra time in the summer. We want to, our ELL classes at the high school level for levels 1 and 2 have been elective credits, and JD and her department have worked this year to have some of those classes also count for graduation credit. So an ELL teacher may be teaching an English class, so that's graduation credit as well as working on language. And if we could, and those are going on during the school year, but we'd like to also offer those in the summer. And then increase that number of 8th grade students earning high school credit. We really see that as a good start for many students and include all 5 Title I middle schools. Any questions?
Barb?
Not a question, but just some commentary. I don't know why I haven't been aware that we were doing ELL or the transition classes during the summer, but I'm really happy to hear about it, and I'm really glad that all of it's important, but I love the idea of the transition from the middle to the high school and now doing it in all the Title I. So I really want to commend you for some real forward thinking here. This is great. I'm sure that if you can do some kind of evaluation component on it or something, that you would see some really big benefit from this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
I would just like to comment in light of our earlier guests with teammates. My teammate walked into high school with 10 credits this year, and that was a huge confidence boost, but a big jump start. And I think when we think about graduation goals, that's a key thing. And so widening it out to all title schools is great, but I think widening out to all middle schools is something that we should also think about as kind of forward potential opportunities.
I can tell you one of the slides that was the most compelling for me was the one where you're looking at the percentages of graduations and how that percentage has increased over the years. I know we've been talking a lot about graduation rate, but when you talk about, kind of that eye on the prize for summer school, helping kids get their requirements out of the way so that they can graduate, hopefully on time, or even just graduate, the idea that, such a high percentage of our summer school students are in fact graduating, our high school seniors, that's, I think, a commendation of the program. So very well done. All right, thank you, ladies, very much.
Thank you.
Now that brings us to the report from the Career Academy. Is there one, Lanny?
Yes, there is. Thank you, Don. The Career Academy Board met 2 weeks ago, and we did a little change to our format. We started our meeting with a presentation from a teacher and 3 students from the IT networking pathway, and we plan on doing updates from other pathways and get a chance for the board members to meet the students. We had 3 students, Dawson, Sam, and Alex, that talked to us about why TCA was important to them. They talked about the opportunity to have hands-on learning experiences, internships with local businesses, and the benefits of getting ahead on college credits. So just like we talked about high school credits and the opportunity to get ahead on that, TCA provides that for our high school students to get ahead on their college credits. Barb had asked me a couple weeks ago about retention and enrollment numbers, and so in addition to the fall numbers for this year, I wanted to remind us of the fall enrollment numbers from last year. Fall 2015, we had started with 357 students, 180 juniors, 177 seniors, and we ended last year with 150 juniors and 125 seniors. So that's 83% of the juniors that we started with and 71% of the seniors. This fall, I'm happy to report that enrollment is a lot higher. We started with 394 students, 247 of those are juniors, and 138 of those are seniors, and then 9 are what are called SENCAP students, which are students from Norris and Waverly that I didn't have the grade breakdown on. But we're really excited about that junior number because it's significantly higher, 37% increase from what we had last year. And that's where we're going to see the growth because it's a 2-year program. And so bringing in those juniors, hopefully many of those will continue on in the second year of the program as seniors. And if we keep growing that junior class every year, then we'll continue to see the kind of growth that we want to see in Career Academy. And on that subject, we have started recruiting for next year. So I would encourage any interested sophomores and juniors and their families to attend one of the information sessions at the Career Academy. There's one tonight at 7 o'clock, but there's also one on Thursday this week for the engineering, construction, welding, precision machining, and information technology pathways. And then on Tuesday, October 25th, and Thursday, October 27th, there are information nights that are open to all pathways. So I, again, strongly encourage anyone who thinks they might be interested to take a trip out to the Career Academy and see what hands-on learning looks like. The next meeting of the Career Academy Board is November 9th, 8 o'clock, and that concludes my report.
Neat. Thank you, Laney. That brings us to our superintendent's update. Dr. Joel.
So we have in our midst the State Nebraska Teacher of the Year, Lincoln High, Amber Volashnik. Just really, really proud of her work. And we had an opportunity, Commissioner and a couple of state school board members were there, and kind of a surprise announcement, very little notice, but just a tremendous honor, and we're just very, very proud of Amber. And we'll try to get Amber here to a board meeting at some point in the future, and she's really worked hard. It was fun to see the looks on our students' faces as everybody walked into the room. I think they were glad to get out of the math assignment for one, but then we're intrigued as to what does this represent. But she's very humble, and I know she's going to do a great job representing not only Lincoln Public Schools, but the state of Nebraska. And kind of unprecedented, I think, for at least me as a superintendent, and maybe you as a board, but we've been asked to do 3 presentations at the National School Board Association Conference. So we'll be relying on you to help do that. We normally get 1, sometimes we get 2, but to be asked to do 3, I think is going to be fun. So we're going to be busy in Denver in the spring. And then tomorrow, several of you are going to be going up to the School Board Regional in Omaha as we interact with our Metro colleagues. We're going to get a van from here and leave at 4 o'clock. So if you'd like to just drive with us, we'll just make it a field trip. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Steve. And by the way, if you didn't see it, the presentation of the Teacher of the Year Award, I believe we had Mindy there with Facebook Live, so we've got the recording of that on the LPS Facebook if you want to go back and watch that. Very neat. Next, that brings us up to announcements of upcoming events for the board. I show that tomorrow we have Face the Chamber at 12 o'clock at the Country Club. Tomorrow evening, as Dr. Joel suggested, is the NASB area membership meeting in Omaha. On October 20th, the Lights On After School program that we heard about earlier is going to be at 5:30 at Goodrich Middle School. On October 24th, district-wide PTO at 7 o'clock here at LPSDO. And that takes us to our next board meeting on October 25th. Next, that brings us to our second time where we would welcome public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on. There is no request for a closed session. Therefore, with that, we are adjourned.